Okay, Beruchim Habayim. Welcome everyone to another session of our Tuesday night class. We would like to graciously thank the host and hostess of Baal and Baalat Bayit, Mr. and Mrs. RG. Thank you very much. I've known Rabbi RG for not so long, but he's a dear friend to me. Always trying to do better, always trying to help. I was told to speak about Shalom Bayit. We started the class last week. This week is part number 2 in Shalom Bayit. Anyone who needs the last recording, someone did record it. You can ask after the class. I didn't give my disclaimer last week. The disclaimer is that I am very far from an expert in this field whatsoever. As I said last week, when I told my wife that I was going to speak about Shalom Bayit, she started to laugh and she said, "What do you know about Shalom Bayit?" So I'm not an expert in this field whatsoever, but I can tell you what the Sefarim say, what the rabbis say. Last week we spoke about what Shalom Bayit is, that it applies to everyone, like we saw from Abraham and Sarah. We spoke about 5 reasons, the main reasons why people get into arguments and fights. This week we're going to speak about how not to get into them in the first place, and a man and woman's role in particular. Now there's 2 very important ideas, concepts that we have to keep in mind in marriage. One is time. Giving time to a spouse, giving time to one another, communicating. If there's no time, then nothing happens. If there's no communication, then you could be drifting apart little by little until you come back, 2, 3, 5 years later, and like women tend to say, "I don't know you, I never knew you, who's this person I married, I can't believe I live with you anymore, you don't know me." Why? Because there's no communication, because they stopped talking, they stopped discussing. We said last week, so what do? Make sure you always have a time once a week to go out, to stay at home, just to be together, talk about nothing, right? The ladies like to talk about Mashem Rotzim, whatever, chairs. So you talk about chairs. And the men, they want to talk about cars, so you talk about cars. You just give that time where it's just you two together. Specifically when there's no phones. Because once there's a phone, then everything goes haywire. Unless you want to play a shtick, and what you do is you make someone call you, and then you say, "I'm not going to answer it. You're more important. You're more important. I'm not answering it. This is the biggest deal of my life." But you could do that. But the truth is, if that's major brownie points, you can try that. It works. But it's important. Imagine you're talking to someone, and then they go and they answer a phone call. That means that whoever's on that phone is more important than me. And then when she finds out it's your mother, then everything's finished. Your mother's more important than your wife. Go marry your mother. Who do you think you are? So, super important. Make sure you always have time together where you can just be yourselves. No kids, no phone. Because time is money. People, we don't have time. Right? We all think we're going to live forever until we realize we don't have it. Rabbi Victor Miller says a story. Rabbi Miller brings down a story. He says there was a man and wife that were together for many years. They grew old together, and she passed away. The Chevra Kadisha, the people come to the house to go and take out the body. And the husband says, "Do me a favor. Is it possible we could wait till 6 a.m.? 6 a.m., take out the body 6 a.m. Okay, yeah. Nothing's happening now anyway. The funeral's tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., 6 a.m. is perfect. May I ask why?" And he says, "The truth is, I never gave time to my wife. She always asked me, she always spoke to me. I was always too busy. I wasn't interested. I didn't have time, my work, my business, my friends. But now that she passed away, I realized what I was missing. I realized what I lost." So he said over that he went into the room and he held his dead wife's hand until 6 a.m. and just talked. But it was too late because he missed out. Now, besides the fact that people will regret not giving that time, time is what makes a marriage into a successful marriage. that communication, that talking. The second idea, which we're going to speak about more in depth, is giving. Right? We all know ahava, love. It comes from the word hav, to give. When you love someone, you give to them. Giving is emulating God. V'halachta b'drachav. God created the world. Why? To give. You have a mitzvah to give just like God gives. Now, who better to give to, like the Arizal says, to your wife? V'afta l'recha kamocha. You give to your wife. She's the one that's the most important to you. Right? We all try to give to our friends and to everything else. But when it comes to the wife, we think, no, she's part of me. She's in my house. No, those are the people that you should give to more than anyone else. And by giving, you're showing God that you're worthy. I'm copying you. Give me another year. Right? We're in Elul. We want another year. So what do? Mahu rahum avata rahum. Just like he does chesed, also you should do chesed. And that's what godly means. There was a woman, a wealthy woman, who walked into the mall. She went, she bought whatever she wanted. She comes out, and she sees there's a homeless boy and girl sitting there by the window. They're looking through the window. She walks over and she says, "What happened? What are you looking at?" So they say, "Listen, we don't have the money to buy this because we don't have any money, but we could afford to look at it. So we want to see all the nice stuff they have over here." She felt so much compassion and mercy that she takes them inside. She buys them whatever she wants, whatever they want, whatever they want. And they come out with bags, and they were so happy, these kids. And they say, "Are you God?" And she starts to blush. And she says, "No, I'm not God, but I'm one of his children." So they say, "We knew you had to be related." Because giving is godly. You give. Godly. That's how it works. The more you give, the more like God you will be. We spoke about this a little bit last week, but we find the same concept by Yaakov and Rachel. Yaakov worked for Rachel 7 years, but it says it felt like a few days. Now we know it's the opposite. When a person wants something, they're always looking ahead. They're always looking to get that item. It takes so long. It looks like it takes years for a couple of days. So how is this the opposite? It was a couple of days, which really was years. So it says that that normal people, when they love someone, it's like they love fish. Right? You love fish, so you eat fish. But really, you don't love fish. Because if you love fish, you would save the fish and you wouldn't kill it. You love yourself. But Yaakov was the exact opposite. He loved her so much that love, that aura that emanated from that love, from that ahava, made it feel like it was worth it. Those years was worth it, like a couple of days, because he wanted it so much. Because that's true love. Like we brought down last time regarding Shammai and Hillel. There's a machloket Shammai and Hillel on why a person should get divorced. Gemara says, when is it right for a man and woman to get divorced? Shammai says if she's promiscuous, she does things that she shouldn't be doing, divorce. Hillel says if she burns the food. Right? Wild. She burns the food. Right? Like we said, that when you come to the rabbi and he shows him the burnt food, and the rabbi says, "Oh my gosh, you should have come to me yesterday. You divorced right away. This is crazy. You burnt the food." But what is it? What does it mean? The Gemara just doesn't mean you get divorced. That's crazy. Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky explains, it's talking about where there were two pieces of meat. One was for her, one was for him. She burnt his. She burned his piece. So instead of giving him the other one, which he would probably split it, she said, "This is your piece. This is yours." Oh, for that? That's a reason to get divorced. Why? It shows that she's not a woman that gives. She's not a woman that wants to give. She looks at it, this is mine and this is yours. So you get this one. That's too much. That a marriage won't last. And we know giving brings about ahava for many different ways. There was a man and woman that were in the war, the Nazis, and the man got out of the war with an infant, his infant child. The woman was stuck there. 8 years later, the woman comes back, and they saw that something very, very interesting was happening. She felt very, very foreign to the child, even though it was her child. And the father had this motherly love for the child. What was the reason? Because for 8 years, he gave to the child, and the more you give, the more you love. She wasn't giving for those 8 years, so it didn't manifest. It didn't feel like anything. We know when you have a plant, you want to grow something. You go into the garden, you put a seed, you put water, You want to grow this plant. And the more you water it, the more sunlight you give, the more it grows. Same thing over here. The more you give, the more pirot, the more fruit come out of it. Right? There's a saying, the grass is greener on the other side. Zelo emet. The grass is greener when you water it. That's when it's greener. The more you water, the greener it gets. You have to keep on giving. And through this, you won't come into any of these issues of having marital problems because you're giving. We see by Ruth HaMoaviyah, the mother of kings. How was she zochet to have kings? She didn't want to leave her mother-in-law Naomi. You see, we have mother-in-law, daughter-in-law stories already. She didn't want to leave her. Machlon and Chilion died. Orpah left. And she wasn't willing to leave her mother-in-law. She said, no, I'm going to take care of you. And through that chesed, she was zochet to something so amazing, to have David HaMelech, to have all these kids. Why? Because she gave. She gave of her time. She gave of her, she went to go get the food. She helped. That's called giving. And when you give, you get back. When a man and woman start a marriage, they always want to see what they could get from the other person, which is totally normal, right? Where there's good selfishness and there's bad selfishness. Good selfishness is for you to grow, to become the best you could be. So you want the best girl, and she wants the best guy, and then you come together, and you want to make a difference in this world, right? For the few years that we have, we want to have an impact. What are they going to write on our tombstone? We have to make sure that everything's set up, or else they're not going to have any ideas when we die. So what happens? They come in and they're selfish, but usually after a couple of years, a year, 2 years, 3 years, it changes, and then there's no more selfishness. Then they want to give to one another. But some people live like bachelors. They live like a couple recently came to me and they said they had this issue, and I told them that you're playing house. You're not married. You're playing house. He's like, no, what are you talking about? We married under the chuppah. I gave a ring. Okay, so you put a ring on an animal. You married? You're married. It's the same thing. You play house and then nothing happens. You're still selfish. You're not selfless yet. A person can share with his wife a home, kids, even a bedroom, and they can still be separated because they never felt that ahava. They never had that longing for each other because they didn't give to each other. They didn't take out their time for each other. Right? Those 20 things every year. You just put those things on her pillow. You write her the notes. The same thing the other way. She makes you the food that you want. And all those things show that, no, you care for me. You're still with me. You're thinking about me. Eliezer went to find a mate for Yitzhak. Right? We all know the story. Eliezer goes. He goes to Canaan to find someone to marry Yitzhak Avinu. And he asks something which the Gemara says was the wrong thing to ask. He says, whoever gives me water is the person I'm going to set up for Yitzchak. He's going to be Yitzchak's wife. And the rabbis ask a question. That's called nehush. Now, nehush is sorcery. The Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch, the Gemara all bring down that if a person walks out of his house and says, if I drop this, if my stick falls out of my hand, I'm not going to work today, sorcery. You can't do it. Because then you're believing in other powers. That's exactly what Eliezer did. Eliezer went, and he said, whoever gives me water. And she did it, and they got married. So the rabbis explained, no, it wasn't nechush. It wasn't sorcery. That's not what it was. He was looking for the exact person to be the mother of Israel. And to be the mother of Israel, you have to be a giver. The person who's going to give, right? It's common. It's cause and effect. The person who gives is the person that I want to marry. The person that deserves to be the mother of Israel. If he doesn't give, she's not going to give, then that's not the person that I want. It wasn't nechush. The reason why Sodom got destroyed is because Sheli v'Shelach Shelach, the famous Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, Sheli, Shelach v'Shelach Sheli. What's mine is yours and yours is mine. And then there's the ones that say what's yours is yours and mine is mine. That's the reason why. They didn't want to give over to anyone, and that's why they didn't make it. You don't deserve to be on the world if you're not going to give. It's not Yeshuv Haaretz. You're not helping out the land. Now, there was a person that went to the Chazon Ish to ask him a question, and the Chazon Ish says, it was a Friday. He said, did you do anything today? The Chavot Shabbat? He said, yeah, I did spanja. You took the thing and you put the water going down in the hole. Nobody knows where it goes. Right? It falls down on someone's head. So he said, why did you do it? He said, L'Chavot Shabbat. I wanted to honor Shabbat. He said, if you would have said it was for your wife, then I would have been happy. Because that's a deoraita, that's from the Torah. V'halachta b'drachav, doing something for your wife, chesed for your wife, is a deoraita. But you said kavod Shabbat, it's dirabanan. So it's okay, but it's not like for your wife. You got the wrong answer, because it's all about giving. He was explaining also that you think it's so small to help your wife. We're always trying to help the other people. He's saying, no, the wife needs the help the most. Rav Shalom Shwadron was walking in Eretz Yisrael, and Rav Yitzchak Sher comes over to him. He was with his kids, and he tells him, he says, Rav Shalom, where are you going with your kids? He said, I'm going to the doctor. My kid isn't feeling well, I'm going to the doctor. He asked him again, where are you going with your kids? He said, I'm going to the doctor. Asked him a third time. This time he didn't answer. And he said, you're not going to give your kids, going for because your kid has a cold, you're going because it's a chesed. Doing chesed with your children is also a chesed. We don't look at it like that. We look at it as an obligation, but it's not. It's a chesed. You help your wife, you help your kid. It's the same mitzvah like everything else. Rabbi Eliezer in the Gemara rules that even if a man has 100 servants, his wife should still be doing something for him. Why? Because if she stops working for him and helping him, then you're losing out on the ahava. There won't be love anymore. It's going to go, because without giving, there's no love. Now, whoever was by my Tisha B'Av, before Tisha B'Av speech, remembers the story, but it's worth it to say it again, that sometimes you feel like you're getting something more than you're giving, but it's not true. Right? Sometimes we feel like when you give, okay, you know what, they got me again. They got me again, now I have to go and I have to sit there and bow my head, okay, you win. But it's not true. Sometimes you get more. How so? There was a story of a person who spoke in one of the Jewish conventions. And he gets up and he says, I have a story to tell everyone. He says, I am not a courageous man. I am not a strong man. I'm not fast. But one day I was walking home from shul. And I was walking home from shul. I usually walk the same route every day. I took a different route. And I end up in front of a bush. And in this bush I hear noise. And I knew what was happening. A man was in the middle of taking a woman. And he said he stopped and he thought about it. He said, I don't know what to do. I'm scared. First he doubted God. He said, God, why would you make me walk down this block? What are the odds I'm going to walk down this block? And then he says, okay, listen, I have to do something, but I'm not strong. I'm not fast. He's going to beat me. But he knew what he had to do, and he jumps in. He fights the man off. The guy runs away. And he tells the girl, he says, it's okay. He's gone. It's okay. I'm here. And it wasn't long till he realized that that was his own daughter. Sometimes you feel like you're doing good for someone else, but you're not. You're doing good for yourself. Because at the end, when you have Shalom Bayit, when you have a happy life, when everyone always makes fun of the old couple. You don't want to be like an old couple where they just sit together and they scream at each other and things like that. But that's not what we want. We want to have the happy family. We want to have the nice couple. Right? We want to grow old together. But without this giving and helping and talking and communicating, it'll never happen. Now, before we speak about when couples argue, let's talk about how women and men work in general. Again, you can all argue. This is just my theories. What is a woman? Right? This is the famous enigma. This is the riddle that nobody can answer. Sometimes they're happy and they're sad and they're angry. Whatever you say is usually wrong. How do they work? Now, marriage in general, you have two people. You have the husband and the wife. Now, they have to work hand in hand, but they don't have the same obligations. Sometimes the man is the pilot. Sometimes the woman is the pilot. How so? The man is the breadwinner. He's the one that goes. He goes to work. He comes home. He brings in the stuff that needs to be brought in. He's the pilot. The woman's there just for advice. Can I help you? You want to talk about it? Is there anything I could do? But he's the one that makes the decision. The opposite is true by the woman. Anything that has to do with any house affairs is by the woman. If he wants to go and say, you know what, I don't like the pink couch, I want the yellow couch, go jump in the lake. I don't care what you like. This is my domain. This is what the woman does. This is what she's in charge of. And he can advise and whatever he can. You put it in the suggestion box that nobody reads. And okay, this is how it is. Because she's in charge of that. Like the Gemara actually brings down, the Chazal tell us that the women are in charge of the home, which is even more important than the men in charge of outside, the religion. But really, it's nowadays, the women in charge of all religion. everything in the house is run by the woman, and all religion comes from the house. There's so much, especially in 2019, so much that you can go and help and hide from the kids. There's no thing as sheltering anymore. There's no such thing as sheltering. Right now, you have to have such a strong home to make sure that the kids don't go the way that you don't want them to go. And this means religiously and not religiously. Now there's two pishatim in a certain pasuk. We're going to go through each, and they both tell us a very amazing concept in marriage. The Khatam Sofer brings down. He says that Avraham was outside. He just got his Brit Milah, talking to God. He was waiting for guests. The guests came. He thought they were Arabs. Really, they were angels. And he goes in and he says to his wife, he says, "Knead me kemach." And then the pasuk says, "Kemach solet." Right? It says kemach, then solet. So the rabbis explain, what does that mean? Why kemach solet? Because he said kemach. Khatam Sofer says, "Give me flour." And she said, no, solet, fine flour. Why? Because men can only see one way. They could only see, okay, this is how it has to be. They want bread, make me flour. The woman says, no, solet. The fine flour with the drapes and the things, everything has to match, and then the cutlery, and we have to have dips with it also. Because the women take what a man, his idea, his inception, his imagination, and they make it real. Without women, nothing would be real. We wouldn't be able to do anything. Nothing could be done without the woman actually bringing it into fruition. Where do we see this the most? Actually, interestingly enough, they bring down, scientifically, they bring down that from one zera of a man, it could impregnate 100 million women. 100 million women. That's because the men we're all over the place. We can't think normally. We have so many things on our mind that we're trying to do. Then the woman comes and she makes everything straight. Okay, this is how it has to be. This is what we're going to do. So what does the woman do? She takes everything that he gives her and she makes one baby. That's all. I made it perfect, right? You give me whatever you want to give me, and then I make it real and I make it true, and I make it something that could stick, something that'll last. That's what a woman is made up of. She wants to take everything that you have and she wants to make it real. Like we say, by spirituality also. She takes your Kiddusha, your spirituality, and she manifests it. She pushes you to the right place in Kiddusha, in a place where you belong, because she knows exactly what you need. You give her raw material. The Gemara says that a man comes home, he brings wheat. What does she do? She takes the wheat and then she grinds it and she makes it flour and puts the yeast and the water. She makes it into a dough and she braids it and she puts it. She made it real. You're just bringing raw material. You're bringing the G wheat. Nothing. She's the one that makes it into food. You give her. Gemara says you give her flax, linen. What does she do? She makes it into a garment, because she takes whatever you have and she makes it that much stronger. That's what a woman is. A woman is bina, right? We loosely use the word intuition, but it's not. It's closer to Ruach HaKodesh. They have a certain Ruach HaKodesh. When a woman speaks, she's saying something from God. That's what she's saying. When she tells you, don't do this business deal, it means don't do this business deal, because it doesn't feel right, and they're right. Many times when I have an issue, what do? Do I go here or do I go here? I go to my wife. What do you think? What do you think? Because you know what? When you say something, it matters more, because you look at things in a different way. God gives you a certain Ruach HaKodesh. The words that come out of your mouth, they mean something. When he says when she says don't be friends with this person, right? Unless she's jealous for some reason, you don't be friends with the person, because that person is not for you. For whatever, you can't see it, but she can see things that can't be seen. That's what this intuition, that's what this Ruach HaKodesh, this intuition is. But as we said, a woman takes something and she makes it real. She makes it different. She flowers it up. Right? If a man would make this party, he would have a couple pieces of sushi with some spicy mayo over here. Everything's set up with the tables and the chairs outside, beautiful under the thing, the fans on. But us, we wouldn't be able to do this. That's what a woman does. She makes it into something that we can be happy about. My Rosh Hashiva from Linden, New Jersey, Rav Gershon Newman, whenever I used to go to his house, he used to have these on the table, these little napkin holders. And every time I went there, he used to say, don't you think these napkin holders are so nice? I would say, yeah, they're beautiful, right? Very nice. Every time. Until one time he told me, he's like, you know, I always ask you this. He said, whenever someone comes, I ask them the same thing. And then they say, yeah, and then I take it off the table. Because my wife puts it on. She's so happy to not just put plates. She puts a napkin holder. I want to make her feel good. So I always talk about her napkin holders, and it makes her feel good. But that's what it is. They need that more. They need more. They need to change it. They need to make it better. Now, we know there were 5 destructions that happened on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. The Beit HaMikdash, the siege, the beginning of the Beit HaMikdash destruction. And there was one thing that doesn't belong there, and that is the Harabayit was plowed. It says that the king in that time plowed over the Harabayit. And the rabbis asked, why is this one of them? Why was this so important? It was plowed over. There's so many more worse things that were happening during that time. Why is this the one? That's because a bayit, Har HaBayit, the bayit is a place that if it's destroyed, then you can't come together. God built the house that you could be together, and now it's already plowed over. A woman is called a bayit, akeret habayit. She's the bayit. She is the house. If things aren't going well, the bayit is destroyed. It doesn't work. It doesn't help. You can't go through. You can't do anymore without this bayit. Rav Ayer Levine was going in a taxi, and the taxi driver asked him, "Evo habayit shelcha? Where's your house?" And Rav Ayer Levine says, "My wife died." He said, "You want to know where I live? Ani gash shama. This is where I live. But my bayit isn't here anymore. My wife is my bayit. If I don't have my wife, I don't have a bayit. I don't have anything holding me down. I don't have anyone making my life strong, changing it in the way that it needs to be changed." The foundation of a Jewish home is a woman's purity. The way she dresses, tzniut, the way she acts, which is even more important. If she's loud, if she's not loud, the things she does, that's what makes a house. That's what makes a woman into who she is. The more modest she is, the more Kiddusha she has. The more the house has Shalom Bayit. Because if you don't have Kiddusha, you don't have Hashem, you don't have Shalom Bayit. Lama? Ish v'isha. Right? Ish means a man, Isha means a woman. What's the 2 letters that are different in Ish v'isha? Rabbi Sharon? The He and the Yud. And the Yud. Yud He. It's Hashem's name. Together they have Hashem's name. What happens when you take away the Yud and the He? Ish. You have a fire. It consumes. You don't have anything. If you don't have Hashem in the middle, you don't have anything. So a woman's modesty is what makes the house kadosh. And the Midrash brings down that the most noticed women in history was Ruth and Sarah. Midrash Tanchuma. Why? They were the most modest. Sarah, how do we know? The angels asked, "Where's Sarah, your wife?" By Ruth. Boaz said, "Who is this girl picking up so modestly picking up the grain, the wheat from the floor?" Rabbi Rucham Levovitz brings down, he advises women to think a thought throughout the day. He says every woman should think this thought throughout the whole day. What is it? What I am doing now is the most important thing in the world. That's the thought that people should be thinking. What I am doing at this moment is the most important thing in the world. Why? Why is that something Rabbi Rucham Levovitz, the Mashkiach of Mir, says that everyone should be thinking? It's because when a woman lacks this modesty, that means inside of her, she's lacking something. She's lacking this Kiddusha, she's lacking this Hashem, this Shekhinah inside of her, and then she has to get it from outside sources. Now, everyone has to know, I'm going a little bit off tangent over here. Everyone has to know that we are created for a reason. When you wake up in the morning, Modeh ani lefanecha melech hay v'kayam shechazalta bi nishmati b'chemla rabba emunatecha. God, thank you for giving me back my neshama. Why is He giving it back to you? Rabba emunatecha, because I believe in you. God believes in you. There's something that every person here and every Jew in this world can do that nobody else could do. Because if someone else could do it, you wouldn't be here. Now you have to find out, what does God want from you? What's your mission? There's 600,000 neshamot. How many letters in the Torah? 600,000. What happens if one letter is scrubbed out? It's pasul. Why? Because every letter is needed. Every neshama is needed. And when you think these thoughts, you realize that you're important. Everyone's important. You're a bat melech. When you think of it, that you're a bat melech, my grandfather's Avraham Avinu, Yitzchak, Yaakov, how can you look any otherwise? How can you do things? How can you say things? How can you not make your house holy when you know that your grandfather is the king? That you're a ben melech. So when a woman doesn't do these things, she has to fill the void with something, so she has to get it from outside sources. And in that of itself, it breaks up the house. Right? When someone asks me, what should I get into? What job should I get into? You always tell them the same thing. You always something in psychiatry or psychology, something, because everyone needs it now. Because everyone has a very low self-esteem. There's no dignity, there's no self-esteem, there's no confidence, there's nothing. But when you realize that you're a Jew, and you're wanted and you're needed, and that no one else could do what you could do, and that you have a mission to do, then you're the happiest person in the world. That means I'm worthy, I'm wanted. Rabbi Munatecha. But it's all about the giving. It's about the modesty. Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks, he just dropped out of the presidential race, Hazit. He went to Israel, to Rav Nosson Tzvi Finkel. He's sitting by Rav Nosson Tzvi Finkel with his entourage, a couple of guys over there. Rav Nosson Tzvi was sitting in his chair, he had Parkinson's and moving all around. And Rav Nosson Tzvi asked a question. He says, what did we learn from the Holocaust? So one guy gets up and says, we learned never again. And the next guy says, we learned that we need an army. And everyone had their different opinions about what it is. Rav Nosson Tzvi Finkel's listening to everyone. And then Howard Schultz sees that the rabbi didn't really like any of the answers. He says, Rabbi, what's the reason? And he says, I'll tell you the reason. He said, we learned from the Holocaust that 5 people can use 1 blanket. He said, why? Because when the Nazis, Yimach Shemam, they threw those Jews into the barrack, they gave 1 blanket for 5 Jews. Now, they had a dilemma. They could either all fight over it and no one gets it, or each one pushes it to the next. And that's what they did. They pushed it to the next. So they all had a blanket. He said, so too everyone here. Take what you have, take your blanket and spread it out in the world. Make a difference in the world. You have influence, you have money, do something. And the next time he came, he goes to Rav Nosson Tzvi and he says, Rabbi, here's a blank check. Write it out for whatever you want. At that time, the Mir Yeshiva budget was $2 million a month. $2 million a month. He could have wrote it out for $20 million. He wouldn't have blinked. He would have been off for a year. He could have taught the students instead of fundraising all around the world. And the rabbi says, I can write it for anything. Anything you want. He wrote the check $1,200. And then he gives it back to him. And he says, here's $1,200. Go down the block, buy yourself a pair of tefillin, wear it every day. That's what you could do for me. Because it's not about what you could get from the other person, it's what you could give. It's how you can help. Now in the same pasuk that we learned before, there's a Kli Yakar who brings in a Gemara Bava Metzia as well. That when Abraham ran and said, we have 3 Arabs over here, 3 ABs, go get the kemach solet, the fine flour. The Gemara says that Abraham is the one that said kemach solet, get the fine flour, and she said kemach, just the flour. And the Gemara says, we see from here that women are more stingy to guests than men, right? Which we know isn't true. If I would give my guests a couple of crackers, and my wife would put out a whole spread. So what does it mean? What does it mean women are more stingy? So they say, no, it's not what you think. Kemach solet, the reason why she wanted to keep it, right? She was hiding the kemach solet, the fine flour. She wanted to give the bad stuff. Why? Because she says, I want to save it for my husband. It wasn't that she wanted to keep it for herself. She wanted to give it to her husband. Because a woman, in general, wants the best for her husband. That's all they want. They want them to be happy. They want to give them whatever they can. And of course, you reciprocate the other way. But that's exactly what the Kli Yakar brings down from the Gemara, that she wanted to save it so her husband can have this kemach solet, this fine flour. It's part of their psyche. That's how women are brought up. That's how they're there to give, to nurture, to help, to save. Something just hit me in my head, so I'm just going to say it. I remember hearing a story from Charlie Harary. Charlie Harary had a story. He said It was a few weeks after September 11, 2001, after the Twin Towers fell. And he's sitting there, Simchat Torah, by his rabbi's table, and a woman walks in, stayed for 5 minutes, started to cry a little bit. She bangs the door, she leaves. And he's thinking, that is so weird. So the rabbi says, don't talk about it. He said, tell me. So he said, I'll tell you the story. Her husband was in the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers, on September 11th. And he died. That morning they got into a fight. They got into a fight about something petty, like it always happens. He says this and she says that, and they get into a fight over something. They both left each other angry. She went to do carpool, he went to go to work. He gets into the Twin Towers, and he sees that he's not going to make it. The plane hit under him, 20 floors under, there's no way out. And he says there was 20 seconds left. What do you do? Meyer, 20 seconds to live. What do you do?
Call your wife.
You call your wife. And he calls his wife. No answer. Goes straight to voicemail. And he says on the phone, he says, honey, I love you. I've always loved you. I'm so sorry we got into that fight. I wish I had more time with you. There's nothing that I would want to change about you. You're perfect. You won't understand this message, but you'll understand it soon. And he hangs up. She's washing the dishes, watching TV, and every channel's on the same thing. World Trade Center. She knows her husband's there. She sees her phone, the little red light, right, with the flip phones. It's blinking. She listens to the voicemail, and as she finishes the voicemail, the World Trade Center falls. Now, if you're thinking of it like that, it's a whole different ball game. If you have 20 seconds to live, what would you tell your wife? What would you do? So then why don't you do it now? Why do we act that way to our spouses? Why do we say things that shouldn't be said? Why do we do things that shouldn't be done? When we can realize, when we can see that we have moments, what do we have? Life is finite. God is infinite. We have nothing. We die like everyone else. So how do you leave angry? See, we still have time. We still can work on this. We can help. We can change. We can let the things go. But some people don't. Now, when there is an argument, which tends to happen, the best thing to do is always look at yourself in the other person's shoes, right? You won't understand it your way, so you got to understand it their way. You got to take off your shoes and look, you always put the cup on the table, but why does it bother you when she does it? It bothers you, so you have to look and see, really, maybe it's not that important. And on the subject of giving into arguments is the best giving. Like we said, zelo chashuv, it's not important. That's the best. 20 seconds left to live. What do? You give in. You don't fight. You give that last hug. You say it's going to be okay. The Midrash brings down that you find that Yaakov went to Rachel, and Rivka went to Yitzchak. And we learn from there a very nice idea that when people are in arguments, or even not in arguments, that you have to go to each other. Right? There's no one way. You come to me, I'm the king, I'm the man of the house, I say what goes, I'm the breadwinner. You have to go to her, and she has to come to you. We find it by the Avot. They did the same thing. Ephraim and Menashe, Yaakov Avinu goes, he puts his hands on Ephraim and Menashe. Instead of switching them, he switched his hands. And the rabbis asked, why wouldn't you just switch them? Just switch them. Maybe they would feel more comfortable even. It looks stupid if you do it like that. And they tell you a beautiful idea. The reason why you don't switch them is because if you have an issue with something, bend. You should switch your hands. Don't make them switch for you. When a husband and wife get into an argument, you switch for the other person. You be mevater. You don't make them switch for you. Yaakov Avinu did that. And if you give a finger, they give you back a finger. You give a hand, they give you back a hand. Whatever you give, they give it back. Tenfold. Women give it tenfold. Right? There's a very interesting idea. When a woman, God bless them, they go to the supermarket and they get their vegetables and their meat, and they go and they marinate it, and then they prepare it and they cook it, and they do the whole to-do. right? The whole item from soup to nuts, and they come and it's all ready on the dinnerware, and then they have to prep it, and then they have to wash the dinner after. Everything, they do everything, and what do they want back? Thank you. Right? For a man, it's not worth it. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. You think I do all that for a thank you? No, thank you. Don't do it. I don't want to do it. I don't care. But a woman, they give you back much more. They give you back 100 more. They just want to thank you, and they blush. They say, "Oh wow, this is the best chicken I've ever had in my life. She'll make it every day till you want to puke it." But at the end of the day, they love it. That's all they need. They just need that thank you. Right? It doesn't work by men. Men don't have that. Now, those little petty arguments, how do they start? And how can we stop them from happening? You have a wife that asks a husband to fix something. Please fix the door. 2 days later, it's not fixed, right? That sounds familiar. 2 days later, still not fixed. And what does she say? She says, "I told you to fix it. Why don't you ever fix it? You don't listen to me. You don't hear me." And then he says, "What, you think I'm not busy? What do you think I do all day? You think I'm playing Game Boy? No, I'm busy. I have things to do." So instead of doing that, what could a woman do? Right, ladies? What could a woman do? I know you're very busy. And I know you're going to get to it. So I'm just reminding you. And then what's he going to do? He's going to do it right away. Right? And that changes the whole thing. There's no such thing as a fight. You think I'm busy? You think I'm not busy? There's no more argument anymore. Because you just said it the nice way. You said it the right way. I know you're very busy. You're acknowledging the person, and then you're saying, "Yeah, you'll do it. You'll get to it. I know you'll get to it. I'm not pressuring you at all." Where does this come up the most? When the man goes to the supermarket. You go to the supermarket. "I need 3 things. Give me eggs, carrots, and OJ." He comes back, and everything's wrong. Right? I did that in the beginning of marriage 2 times to make sure she never asks me again. And now I don't even know what tuna is. What is tuna? I have no idea. Tuna fish. So what do? You come back and you have candy and you have this and drinks, and usually you forget the most important thing, and if you don't forget it, it's wrong. The OJ has pulp in it. Who drinks pulp? This is for sick people. Nobody drinks pulp. Regular OJ, no pulp. And then a carrot, right? Men, we don't know. We buy 1 carrot. And she says you can give it to a rabbit. We have a bunny in the backyard. I want a bag of carrots. And the eggs you forget. Now, right, that happens normally. And then what does he say? "Don't send me again. Don't send me. I'm not interested. I don't know how to do it." Okay, you don't, right? You can't do anything right. Who gets the wrong thing? Who gets 1 carrot? What are you going to use it for? So instead, what could the woman say? The woman could say, "Listen, I should have reminded you. I'm so sorry. The eggs was the most important thing. And carrots, we're going to need a couple for the soup. I should remind you, it's my fault. I'll go out." And then the next time, he won't forget. Or I'll go out this time. And you superseded the whole thing. There's no such thing as an argument in it, right? We have over here a chatan v'kala. They come into Shalom Bayit classes even before it happens, which is very smart. Hazaku baruch. It's a good idea, but this is what you have to know. Right? Either you do like me and you get the wrong stuff on purpose, or you make sure the wife tells the husband, "Listen, this is how it is. I would have reminded you. I'm so sorry. It's wrong." And then the husband's going to want to do it anyway. Now, a spouse, whether a man or a woman, needs to be smart. You have to get what you want without actually saying it. Now, how do you do that? Devorah HaNeviah wanted her husband to learn. And he knew he wasn't going to learn. He couldn't learn. He didn't have time to learn. So what she do? She made wicks for the Beit HaMikdash. This is the wicks for the menorah. Could you bring it to the Beit HaMikdash? And he would say, "Of course, Beit HaMikdash, awesome." And he would go in, and she was always hoping that when he went in, he'll talk to the Kohanim, he'll see the rabbis, the Kohen Gadol. And to do it in a smart way, right? Everything's done b'chokhmah. Women do it much smarter than men. If you do it b'chokhmah, if you do it with wisdom, then you can make your spouse do anything. You won't get into anything. Yeah, just bring it. You know what? I just donated a coffee jar, bring it to the yeshiva. And then you go to the yeshiva, and then you sit down at the end if that's what the woman wants. If she wants something else, you could do it the other way as well. But if you do it smartly, if you do it b'chokhmah, it could take away a lot of issues also. Because we're here to renew our marriage every day. It says, "Mechadesh b'chol yom," to be God makes the world new every day. Why? Why does he have to make it new every day? Just make it ongoing. You're God. You can do whatever you want. He's coming to tell you also in your life that things should be different. You should try new things, go different places, bring spice into your life, right? Make a new passion. Because we're all different. We all have different pros, we all have different cons, we all have different issues, we all have different problems, skeletons in the closet. We're different people. Men and women are just created differently. We said last week that men and women, boys and girls, when they're young, in kindergarten, they're the best of friends. And then when they grow older, they grow apart until they reach 13, 14, because they have different, right? The men like playing with the girls when they're younger because they play with two different things. Everything works out very well. And then they get older and then he likes cars and she likes dolls. It doesn't work anymore. So we're different people. So when a husband says to a wife, I would never do that. Okay, you're not me. When she says, when he says, my mother never does that. Okay, you didn't marry your mother. What to do? I'm a different person. Go marry your mother. And then we come to gratitude. Saying thank you, as we said in the story, to say thank you, even they do so much, and you just give a little thank you and they're happy about it. What is the definition of hakarat hatov? What does it mean to say thank you? Recognizing the good that another person does. It's a small deed, it's a small gesture, saying thank you, please. It was so nice, this food was the best food we had all week. Now, a lot of problems happen before we even reach the house. Men, in particular, when we're not fed, we're very edgy. We're very stressed. We're very anxious. No, stop.
He's far. You ever gone? Somebody ever gone?
All right, this is the animal. I said, put the ring on the animal. Right, this is the same thing. No, how is it? Is it close?
Oh no, it went over.
Oh. Okay, so a young man just got married, and he came in. Rav Nathan Finkel saw him and says, "Why aren't you smiling?" He said, "Well, why should I be smiling?" He says, "Your wife looks at you and she sees you smiling, and it changes the day." Scientifically, if you put a pencil in your mouth, then you'll be happier because you're in the smiling motion, right? Like we said, men get very stressed, very edgy before they eat. So make sure you eat something before you get into the house, so you don't have that issue of screaming and getting angry right away. And after a fight is when you have forgiveness, when you say you're sorry. It says in the pasuk, "Vayikra et Adam Chava she'im kol chai." After Chava caused death to the world, after she caused death to the world, it says that he named all the animals, and then he named Chava. He said, "Your name should be Chava because you're im kol chai. You're the mother of everyone." He was lifting her up after she was down. He was showing forgiveness. It's okay. Now it comes to the biggest issue that we have. Now the biggest issue that we have is money. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Rosh Hashanah, and then we're going to understand a little bit about financials, how it's going to work, how it's not up to us regardless. You know, I heard this the other day, so I'm sorry I'm repeating it. Rosh Hashanah, we have a common theme. It's Yitzchak Avinu. Everything's about Yitzchak Avinu. The reason why we blow the shofar from Ma'ayil, to remember the ram. The reason why we read the parasha, we read Parashat Akedat Yitzchak, is to remember Akedat Yitzchak. The reason why we do tashlich, why do we do tashlich and throw our sins into the water, That's because they walked through the water, Abraham and Yitzchak. So God wants to remember, or we want God to remember all these things so that we have a good judgment. Elul. That's what it's about. Now, what happened before the slaughtering, or the almost slaughtering of Yitzchak? The pasuk says, "Vayhi achar hadivarim ha'ele." It says after something happened, and God said, "Take your son, take your firstborn." And there is there's three pirushim, there's three explanations what happened. The first one, it says after Yishmael and Yitzchak got into a fight. Yishmael says, "You got a brit milah, you got a circumcision when you were 8 days old. I got it at 13. I felt it. You think you're better than me?" So Yitzchak Avinu says, he says, if God told me to give my whole body, I would give it to him. What does the pasuk say? Okay, let's see. Put your money where your mouth is. Let's see if you'll do it. I'm going to have you slaughtered. See if you're okay with it. The next pirush, the next explanation is the Satan. The Yetzer Hara goes up to Hashem and says, Yitzchak Avinu was just born. Abraham just slaughtered so many animals. He did not give one korban to you. Hashem says, if I told him to give his son, he would slaughter him. Oh, really? Let's see. After those words, what happened? He's going to get slaughtered. Then the third pirush, the Khatam Sofer brings down that the pasuk right before Vayhi Achar Divrei Me'ele is Eshel. It says Abraham planted an Eshel. Gemaran Sotah Daf Yod Amud Aleph says Eshel is an acronym for Achila, Shtiya, and Leviyah. He had a bed and breakfast. That's what he had. Abraham made a bread and breakfast. But there was a catch. The catch was you had to listen to a class, right? A little bit like over here, right? Nobody's here for me. You're here for the food. I get it. I'm okay. I'm also here for the food. You see what I take after? So he made a bread and breakfast, and you got to listen to Avraham Avinu. And Avraham Avinu, he would talk about Lashon Hara, how bad it is, and he would talk about Chesed, right? The king of Chesed. And there was one thing that he spoke about. It was pet peeve, Avodah Zarah. He hated the Avodah Zarah Baal. He hated him. Who is Baal? Baal was an Avodah Zarah, I believe. It was a golden Avodah Zarah with his hands stretched out, and they would make his hands so hot that they would put a baby on it, and the baby would just burn. And that's how you gave to the Avodah Zarah. You would kill your child. And he hated it, and he said, what kind of cruel thing? What kind of God does this? Doesn't make sense. Don't listen to him. Don't do it. And they would become religious. They would listen to Avraham Avinu. Now, Hashem says to Avraham Avinu, okay, let's see. Practice what you preach. I'm going to tell you to take your own kid. Now, Avraham Avinu is left. He has a dilemma. What do I do? First of all, I'm going to get killed for this. They're going to kill me. Everything I taught is for nothing, and they're going to kill me. Second of all the people I made Jewish or religious, they're going to go, they're going to say, you know what, this guy's crazy, and I'm done. He's just going to kill his own kid. But God said to do it, so he went to go do it. And he wakes up that morning, Vayashkem Avram Babok, and he wakes up, he does his own saddle, he goes through the water, and it says in the Pasuk, something amazing, it says, Vayar et hamakom merachok. He saw the place from afar. He saw this place from afar. Now usually when people don't want to do something, they don't see it from afar. But over here they saw it from afar. Because he was wanting to do it, he was ready to do it. Now, makom doesn't just mean a place, it also means Hashem. Hamakom yinachem etchem. Hamakom baruch hu, we say in Haggadah Shel Pesach. Makom means God. And Avraham Avinu was saying, sometimes I don't see you. I see you from afar. I don't really know why you're doing this, why you're telling me to kill my son, but I know you're doing it for a reason. And I'm going to do it. Even though it's bleak, it's gray, it doesn't make sense to me. There's two other places where this is said. One by Miriam. Miriam gets nivuah, she gets prophecy. And she says Moshe Rabbeinu is going to be born, he's going to make the Mitzrayim come out of Egypt. The Jews come out of Egypt from the Mitzrayim, from Mitzrayim. And Amram says, wow, amazing, he's born, the room lights up. What happens? He gets taken, put in the Nile 6 months later. And Amram says, what happened to your prophecy? And the Pasuk says, Vayaret hamakom merachok. When Miriam was looking at Avraham, at the baby in the Nile, she saw him from afar. She didn't know why this was happening, but she knew God had a reason. And the last time was by Yirmiyahu Hanavi. Yirmiyahu was at the time of the Beit HaMikdash when everyone was getting killed. There was so much blood in the streets that the horses were swimming in blood of the Jews. And he said, in 70 years from now, God is going to bring redemption. We're going to be back. We're going to have kodelim and Beit Knesiyot and Beit Midrash. Everything's going to be perfect. And nobody understood it. You know why? Because they were in it right there. They were in this pain and they can't see out of the pain. But he said, Vayaret hamakom merachok. I know it's going to happen because I have that emunah. And that's what we have to understand. A lot of times in our lives, things don't go the way we want it to go. We don't understand. It doesn't make sense to us. Why is this happening to me? Why is my financial standings not like this other person's? Why don't I have this? Why can't I do this? But when we know God has a plan for us, like we said last week with the mashal of the person watching the Super Bowl, God has a plan. He's the ref. He's the ump. He wants us to win. And sometimes we never see it. Because we don't understand it. We're not part of it. Shem Yishmor. He wants me to be finished. The Ramban writes, the Ramban says that he had a Talmid, the Ramban had a student, and the student was on his deathbed, and he's told the student, but when you go up to Shamayim, I have questions, I want them answered. And he said, how am I going to go up? Who's going to let me in and ask God these questions? He said, I'm going to give you a kime'ah, an amulet. And with this amulet, you're going to go up. And the student dies, and he goes. 1 heaven, 2 heavens, 3 heavens. He shows, every malach says, you can't go up there, it's not for you. Amulet. Straight in. He goes all the way up to Hashem. He opens up the paper to ask the questions, and he closes it. He comes back down. He comes to the Ramban in a dream, and the Ramban says, you have my answers? He says, no. He said, because when I looked at the questions, they weren't questions anymore. Everything makes so much sense over here why things happen. So I have no answers because there weren't any questions. We don't know why things happen, but we have to go back to the beginning to understand them. Like the mashal of the king who had a tailor. And this tailor was a Jewish tailor. He was the best tailor in the world. The king gives him diamonds and rubies and thread and gold and everything to make him the best robe in the world. He made it to him. The king loved it. My faithful servant, the tailor, the Jewish tailor. But the priests and the goyim didn't like this guy, and they said he stole. He must have stole. It doesn't make sense that he has it. Must have stole. You gave him so much more than he had. And the king finally believed it. He was going to put him to death. And the Jew goes, he rips the robe off him, and he rips every...
As far as you could. I'm watching.
Yeah. He rips... It's okay. He rips every piece of this robe apart. And he shows him that everything is accounted for. The same thing over here. To understand how God works, you got to go to the beginning. We can't understand why we don't get things, but we just know that the wife and the husband have to be together in on it. The wife and the husband, it's actually very funny. The wife and the husband have to be together in on it. If it doesn't work, she has to give him emunah. She has to help him. Because sometimes we never see it. I want to conclude with a story that happened to me. My wife, Hashem Yishmereha, she has a minhag to send me off to Israel once a year in a one-way ticket. She says, don't come back, I'm good, just stay there for as long as you want. And 3 years ago, I go to Ramat Eshkol. I'm sitting in Ramat Eshkol, I'm by my friend's house, I'm going to pray Shachrit in the morning. I get up in the morning to go, and while I'm walking, I get hit in the back of my head. Bad hit. My glasses almost fall off, my tefillin almost fall out of my hand. I turn around, nobody's there. I say, what in God's name? I walk a couple more feet, another minute. I get hit so hard in the back of my head. My tefillin fall out of my hand, my glasses fall off. I can't see, I'm trying to struggle to get it. I look across the street, I see an Israeli guy. And the Israeli guy tells me, Moshe, you speak Hebrew? He says, Rutz. He tells me to run. So I don't know what I'm running from. I tell him, Makara. He says, Off Meshuga. He said, there's a crazy bird and he's chasing you. Wow. Some bird and I go and I see there's a raven and he's chasing me. Legit, this big raven. And I'm not in shape. I sit and I learn. My wife makes me drink oil in the morning, a cup in the morning, a cup in the evening. I'm panting and I just jet. I jet and I know I won't make it away from this bird. So I make a right turn. I go down an alleyway and God bless Murphy. I see a guy I didn't see in 7 years and he stops me. He says, David, what are you doing here? I said, I really got to go. And he tells me, no, just talk to me. And I feel this bird coming behind my head and I duck, and it swooshes over me. He's like, dude, you know that almost hit you? I said, I know. Can I go now? He said, yeah, go. And I run to shul. I'm sitting there in shul. I pray for an hour, and I think to myself, okay, so the odds of this raven following me again are very slim. Doesn't make sense. I didn't have anything in my pocket, no food. I said, but I can't be embarrassed now. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do like they do in the movies. And you go out when everyone's going out wearing the same exact thing. They'll never find me. Right? White and black, a bunch of penguins. We're all going to walk out at the same time. And that's what I do. And I put my hat low, and I start walking. And I hear him. But I don't know if it was really him. But then I pick up my head, stupid me. And we eye contact, right there. We got eye contact. Right? We totally get eye contact. And I'm like, oh, shoot. And now he tries to get me, and I start pushing Hasidim. And these Hasidim are just falling. And the Voss is given, and I'm just going. And I'm running. I'm running so fast, and I run into an apartment building. And I'm waiting there, and I can't breathe. I try to go through the back. I can't make it. Yeah, Israel, you can't go through the back. So I got to go through the front, and every 5 minutes, I just run from the next to the next until I get home. I stay there for 7 hours, hoping that it died. After 7 hours, I don't see it anymore. And now what hit me the most, besides for the bird, what really got to me? When I turned around, I didn't see anything there. And I thought about it after. I said, nothing was behind me. And I said, this is exactly how Hashem works. Sometimes you never see it. You get hit in the back of your head. You don't know where it's coming from. And you need that emunah to keep you going. You need that. If you don't have it, you know what's going. You won't be able to run. You won't do nothing. But that's exactly what I learned from this story, that sometimes you get hit and you have to keep on going. When God hits you with something, because it's for your best. We don't know why it happens. But there's a reason why He put you in this situation. There's a reason why. And for that reason, you should pass through. You should make it. You should say, you know what? I believe in it. As I know I said I was going to conclude with that story, but I have one more story I got to say. That there's a story of a man from Williamsburg who had a friend in Borough Park. Yeah, red in Yiddish name. Okay. Man from Williamsburg, man from Borough Park, friends. Now what happens in friendship? One asks the other for money, and then the friendship fails. He says, listen, I need $30,000. I will pay you back in 1 week. It's a sure investment, and it's just borrowing and give it back. Okay, listen, it's a lot of money. I don't have that money. Okay, we'll do it. $30,000. He gives him the money. A week later, it's going to take a month. I can't make it in a week. I thought, but it's not going to work. 1 month. 1 month later, I can't do it. 2 months, 3 months. 6 months later, he said, listen, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, right? That friendship, it failed, not a friendship anymore. And a year later, the man from Williamsburg calls up the man from Borough Park. He says, listen, I have some money now. I will give it to you on condition that I don't have to pay you the whole thing. I only have $15,000. I can't pay you $30,000. The guy's thinking, all right, I'm not going to get anything. At least I'll get this. But you have to be here in 30 minutes. I'm leaving in 30 minutes. If you don't come now, I have to give it to someone else. So he says, 30 minutes, Williamsburg, Borough Park, that's far. I'm not going to make it. I got to speed. And he gets in his car, and he's speeding. He's going so fast. What happens? The cop puts on his sirens. He pulls him over. He says, do you know how fast you were going? I know how fast I was going, officer. But I have a reason. He says, I heard every reason ever created. Everyone has a reason, right? My dog died. I have to throw up. Everyone has a reason. Tell me your reason. He said the whole thing. He said, listen, I borrowed money. The guy has $15,000. He's going to do right now. I promise you it's true. Come with me. I have no problem. He said, okay, I'm going to come with you. I will escort you there. But if you're lying, I'm going to take away your license. I'm putting you in jail. No problem. He escorts him. He goes in front of him all the way to Williamsburg. He knocks on the door. The man from Williamsburg sees a policeman with the man in front. He says, okay, don't tell the cops. Don't put me in jail. Here's all the money. He takes out all the money. He gives him $30,000. Wow. Sometimes you think that it's bad for you. I got pulled over. Why does God do this to me? But no, it's the opposite. God made it so that you should get every penny you have. He got scared of the police officer, so he gave it. And that's what emunah is. It's funny how Shalom Bayit turned to emunah. But regarding the financial aspect, when you do what you have to do, so you don't get this world, you get the next world, whatever it is. We're here as a community. We're here to help each other. That's why they're networking now, getting people different jobs. Financials is a very important thing, and it does strain marriages, but it shouldn't be about the money. It should be about working on your emunah. So if we take that story, we take the story of the raven hitting me in the back of my head, we take everything that we learned tonight regarding women and how women have binah yetera, they have a certain intuition that what they say goes, that everyone is important, that everyone is needed, that you're worthy, and God believes that you could do something that nobody else could do. If we keep everything in mind, we keep in mind about giving, with the story from Howard Schultz, that when you give, you get more. The story of the person who saved his own daughter. When we understand all this, we can have a real Shalom Bayit. We could be zocheh to a real Bayit Ne'eman b'Yisrael, and this is something to work on during this Elul and Rosh Hashanah. Kitivah v'chatima tova, and Tizkul Shem Rabot. Amen.
Very nice.